Hey, everybody, this is Liz coming back to you with someone you're very familiar with, and it is Nick. And it's nice to see you again. And yes, you're all wondering what in the world this is. So, our leadership team went to Mike's wedding in Alabama, and one of our cohorts here, Brian, asked if he would bring him an alligator. So Nick brought this alligator head back to Brian, and I got a prank played on me, and it was attached to my microphone this morning. So because it's Nick who got the alligator, we're going to leave it on for this interview. So there are new things happening in Nick's life and business, and so much always in the leadership team. And his role has changed so much. And his most recent is something that all owners are concerned about and interested in, and it's when and how and what and all the details of selling their business. And first of all, I'll jump into that today. And if you want to share how it came to be that you had the idea that you wanted to sell, and what circumstances in life would cause an owner to think of all the reasons that maybe he should sell, and then what the process looked like for you, and the feelings and all of that emotion that comes after.
Well, I haven't had any time to reflect, to be completely honest. Um, so the reason why I initially started considering selling the business is because last year, when I joined the leadership team, I was still running my location, managing or being the regional manager for Mike's two corporate locations, and then also doing my role as the owner success manager. And it's just a lot of different things in different places and a lot of attention that needs to go in different places. And my location too at the time wasn't really the size that you would want to hand it off to a general manager and have it operate on its own. Um, so yeah, essentially, what I realized as time goes on is I started to see myself as more of a bottleneck. So I was a bottleneck to that location continuing to succeed because the general manager who had been with me in the field for years up to that point, they had stepped in and took over operations. But also in order to get them up to speed, like I would have had to have spent a lot more of my time, like, training and developing them and like working with them a lot closer, more time than I spent with the corporate locations as the regional manager. And it was just time that I didn't have. So what I realized, like, okay, the future of the location is kind of bottlenecked by me. I also know that I've been operating beyond my capacity for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and you can do that for a certain amount of time. But what I realize is like Alex Hermosi talks about this, Mike talks about this, is like the value of focus. And my focus is just in all these different places. It's like, okay, so I have my business over here, but I'm not getting paid to do that. So anytime I spend in my business, it causes actually more psychological stress than anything, because the more time I spend at that, the less time I get to actually do what I'm being paid to do, which
Right.
causes psychological stress.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, so it was a combination of those things. It was like, yeah, the stress, seeing myself as the bottleneck, and then also realizing that I'm doing a bunch of things, but I'm doing them at 50% versus if
Right.
I did fewer things and I did them at 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that focus, would translate to better performance. So, and the other, or I guess the final consideration was, I was having a conversation with one of the neighboring locations nearby, and he had kind of expressed his desire, not necessarily to purchase my location, but he had mentioned in the future, he's like, yeah, I kind of want 2, 3 locations. I want to be the regional over those, have them running at 800,000, and then just kind of park it there, and
Mm-hmm.
2, 3 locations nearby. And I had kind of been like tossing around the idea. I knew something had to change. That was it. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know if I was going to sell the business or not, but something had to change. And yeah, so when he mentioned that, I mentioned to him the possibility of buying my location because we're neighbors. We were side by side, and also kind of where he is. He's on an island, so his future locations like they would have to be a lot further away, um, unless he just purchased mine. So yeah,
Mhm.
we had that conversation, and then yeah, a couple months later, we ended up finalizing the purchase, and um, it's still in the early stages. Obviously, it was just a few weeks ago, and there's still some crossover that's happening that it's like 90% there, but there's just loose ends. But I think I already see it as a positive for everybody involved. It's a positive for the manager there because he gets more guidance and support on a regular basis, more than I was able to give him. It's a positive for me because I have much more mental capacity freed up to be able to do the things that I'm doing here with all of the owners. And also, it's positive for Alex because now he has a second location. So.
Mhm. Fantastic. So there's two things here to address, and one is for the business owner that is not sure when they should sell. And I know that we've heard before to build a business to be able to sell it. And what place in revenue were you at when you felt like it would be a good time that you could sell?
Well, just due to the timeline and the way that things worked out, just for my particular situation, it's a little out of the ordinary because I went from being a business owner to being an employee again, and most people don't
Mhm.
really take that jump. Most people, if they're selling their business, it's because um, they're retiring because they've been running the business for years. They made all the money they wanted. They want to sell it for whatever reason. So it's a little bit different. The business was not in the perfect position to sell. So I won't share all the specifics and everything of all the numbers and all that, but you get much less money for your business by not having it at a certain size, by not having the general manager fully up to speed. So long term, like of course, if you're looking at it just numbers on a paper, it would have made more sense for me just to um, deal with the stress, um, keep running that business, keep trying to support the manager, keep it at the size that it was because it was really profitable. And basically, like the decision to sell cost me 50,000 a year. And
Mm,
if I didn't change anything and just kept running that location after the manager gets his salary and distributions, uh, there was 50,000 left over, and we could have kept it at that point easily. But also, the manager, expressed desires of wanting to get out of the field, wanting to become more of a manager because he was like way more of a working GM type.
mm,
Most of his time was spent out in the field, and that's why it worked.
mhm.
It was stressful on him. He's looking to take that next jump too, but I couldn't support him in getting to that next level. Yeah, so basically, yeah, selling it cost 50,000 a year. So that's the tough part to grapple with.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, you don't get nearly as much money for the business versus if you just continue to build it, got it to that point to where it was fully matured. There's a manager completely out of the field. They're fully up to speed, and then basically you can sell it to someone who doesn't have to do anything.
Mhm.
You get much better money for it. But also, the only reason I was able to sell it to Alex is because he understands what we're doing at Augusta. He understands the business model, everything that we're trying to do. And he understands that he's going to take it and get it to where it needs to be. But I don't get as much for the location because it wasn't already there yet.
Got
So
it.
given the choice, if I wasn't in the circumstance that I was in, I would have kept it. But yeah, just because of the circumstances why I sold. So definitely wouldn't have been my first choice, but just it was the best choice. Given everything that's going on.
Yeah, so the second part of that would be people that are interested in the franchise or those within the franchise. How difficult is it to sell to someone in the franchise that you're currently in, and the positives and the negatives of that, you think?
I would say it's going to be much easier to sell to an existing location nearby than anybody else. Because if you want to sell it as an existing business, you have to sell Augusta too. So if you're trying to
Mhm.
sell it to an outsider, you'd have to sell them on joining Augusta and taking your business and running with it.
Right.
Also, if Alex didn't purchase my location, I don't think I would have sold it. Um, because it's not really worth anything to other people outside of
Mhm.
that because
Mhm.
it wasn't just turnkey like, hey, put money in and just watch it run without you. There was still a lot of effort from the owner required, obviously to work with the GM, get them up to speed. um, So yeah, if Alex didn't purchase it, I don't think anybody would have. But yeah, massive value to anybody in Augusta, like, you know, selling an existing location to somebody else in Augusta. Yeah. So the whole essence of it is that the business needs to be completely up to speed, and the manager needs to be completely up to speed. Otherwise, it's not worth very much.
So do you believe if all the systems are in place that the new owner should be able to step right in and carry the systems on the way he's been doing it at his own location?
Oh, 100%. I've always run everything extremely by the book with my location, very simplified, very by the book. It's the location's been profitable, so he's taking over a profitable location. Yeah, very easy. Like everything that I've seen, he's just taken it and running with it. So
You mentioned earlier that you wouldn't be a good employee. Actually, we've talked about this before, but you were saying to go from an owner back to an employee when you've been an owner of a company, that's a huge challenge. And we were talking the other day about being an average employee in an average business. And you were saying it didn't seem so much like that for us. And why did you say that?
yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, I don't think I necessarily said I would be a bad employee, but just like the um, concept of going from business owner to employee, it's not a jump that most people make unless they're
Right.
forced.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole thing. Is the people that most of the people that do make that jump, it's because they're forced to, because of financial reasons. They need stability. They ran out of capital in the business, what have you. That's why they make that jump. But for me, I don't have a super like, you know, polished answer for this, but I think about it and I'm like, why did I make the decision? Not that I thought I was going to do both, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I took this position, I thought I could still run my business, still do all of this. But then as time went on, I realized that's it's like beyond my capacity right now, and
Mm-hmm.
there's it's just not going to work in the short term. Um, Ultimately, the reason why I decided to become an employee again is because I just like being part of the mission, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I also, you know, I there's no like pride wrapped up in me being like, oh, I'm a business owner. I never thought that way. The whole reason why I got into like running my own business to begin with, I was pretty idealistic. The whole goal was just to kind of change people's lives. I know it
Mm-hmm.
sounds really cliche and naive, but you know, my life was changed by Augusta and our team at Bellingham, you included. We had a phenomenal team, and my goal, especially with the 3F program, was like, okay, I want to go and create this for myself. And I had these really like the money and stuff. It's like, yeah, it's nice to have money, obviously, just so you can check boxes in life. You can make sure that you can provide for your spouse and kids when you have them, and get the house, and like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
just do all the things. So that's nice. But um, yeah, with the business itself, the whole reason was to basically like change employees' lives. And
Mm-hmm.
the unfortunate reality of business that I wasn't prepared for was maybe 9 out of 10 employees don't care,
Yes.
or 99 out of 100.
Yes.
And so like I would consider myself decent at everything I did with the business. Like we were profitable every year. I always made sure we had strong metrics. Like I checked all the boxes. But I found myself sort of lost a couple years in, especially after going through dozens of employees and having horrible things happen, and just kind of sitting there and thinking, this is not what I wanted. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I understand, like, obviously life happens in seasons, and you go through tough times in the business and whatnot, but this wasn't a reality that I saw changing. And I'm like, okay, I can continue to do this, but I'm kind of disconnected from my why, so to
Yeah.
speak. So yeah, ultimately the reason why I decided to become an employee again is because I could align with the mission and actually feel like the effort and energy that I put in was worth it, and that was actually serving people who wanted the help. because that was my experience with the employees. Like, I just wanted to help people, and I wanted to be able to say, and I still do, is like at the end of my life, I just simply want people to be like, he made my life better in some
Hmm.
way. Not that I'm like some miracle worker or something, but I just, yeah, at the end of the day, it's like I just want my existence to be valuable, to people in this world, and I could see myself achieving that more, um, as being part of the franchise and the team. And then it's like, also the leverage, like, if I'm working with an owner and then that owner has, 6 employees underneath them, it's like that reach extends a lot further. So if I can help that
Hmm.
owner, do a lot better in his business, and then, if he does better in his business, he'll be a better leader. He'll guide his employees better. They'll be more profitable. There will be more money to go around, more opportunities. So it's definitely higher leverage. And yeah, ultimately that's it. That's the essence of it. So I just got disconnected from my original why, and I just like being part of the mission. I like being part of the team, and I have no pride or ego, wrapped up in being a business owner or not. And the conversation that we were having the other day, the whole essence of it was, if someone offered me $300,000 a year to work at some like giant, corporation, I would not.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
I would not. I just kind of value purpose more than anything. And I just never want to be one of those people that just kind of wakes up every day, hates what they're doing, literally doing just enough to skate by. Because I've
Yeah.
been there. That was me in high school, and kind of shortly after I was
Hmm.
just existing, and it's miserable. So that's ultimately it. I just like being part of the mission, part of the team. I like playing my part. And yeah, I just feel like I have much more, purpose and reach, as part of the franchise versus when I was just running my business, by myself.
You mentioned reach. What about the autonomy of being able to do things kind of your own way, have your own ideas, and then just run them by Mike, and then he lets you run with it, and put a process or a system in place, and then he just gives his input to that. Is that something that you think has benefited you, which you would not have that opportunity if you were just at a factory or in some assembly line or something?
Of course, I think it's the only jump obviously I could have made, especially going from being a business owner, having so much autonomy, um, especially like over your schedule and everything like that, not having someone like micromanage you. It's a good happy medium, because it's like, yes, I'm an employee again, but I'm also not, being micromanaged every day. Which,
Mhm.
if I basically did that, and if I was just given a list of things to do, and it was like, hey, do this list by the end of the day, and then I come back the next day and then there's another list, I probably wouldn't have done that.
Mhm.
It's like part of why I took this position is because I know the leader that Mike is, and his style, and sometimes I'll admit it's difficult to deal with, because, kind of sometimes the freedom can be crippling in a way, um,
Yes.
to where it's like, okay, I have too much freedom, and some, like, you always want what you don't have. So
Yep.
whenever I have a ton of freedom, it's like, hey, figure this out, solve this problem, just like figure something out,
Mhm.
because Mike hasn't been the owner success manager, like he doesn't know how to do it. So
Exactly.
it's up to me, or you in your role. It's like to figure it out.
Yep.
And sometimes it's really difficult because you don't know how. But at the same time, it's much better than just being given a to-do list and just checking things off a list, and because then you don't really have ownership over the results of the process, and you care
Right.
much less. Like if someone just said, hey, do this, and I didn't actually believe in the idea, like,
Mhm.
any person's probably going to do it at like 50%, because they just don't really
Mhm.
care. They don't really get it. It's the same thing for the frontline employees. If you just say, hey, go do this, if they don't understand why, or if they don't believe it's also important, they'll just kind of do it pretty mediocre. So yeah, it's nice. It's the perfect balance between being a business owner and having that level of, autonomy, um, but then also having the structure within the organization too, and working with the team and having like a clear role and objective. It's a good balance between the two. So yeah, it is difficult at times though, because sometimes you're in the ether, and it's like, you got to know the right thing to do when. But Mike does a really good job too. Is I always look at it. like this analogy where it's like you have like imagine like an old ship, right? It's like you have the crow's nest like way at the top, and then you
Mhm.
have like all the deckhands, all the guys working on the ship, and then you have the guy steering the ship, actually like behind the
Mhm.
wheel. So the guy in the crow's nest is Mike, and then me in my position, I'm steering the ship, and I don't really have people under me. But if I did, those would be the deckhands. So
Mhm.
it's sort of like that. So it's Mike's the one. He's saying like, "Hey, this is where we're going. This is where we're going." And he can cast the vision, and then he's like, "Whatever we can do to facilitate that, let's go." So that's kind of how I view it. And it works really well. Yeah.
So do you feel like you've had lots of new ideas and things that you want to do, or maybe had ideas before, or now because you were released from the burden of the business, you're starting to get creative and think of things that would help our owners more? And I know that that is the case. So what kind of things have you put in place since you were able to sell your business and or even know that it was coming up and you were going to have that mental space to be able to move laterally a little bit more?
hmm Yeah, there's always a million ideas and things that you want to do. And part of what I've had to learn in this position too is more is not necessarily better. So
Mhm,
doing more, putting in more hours, like just doing more stuff just for the sake of doing more
mhm,
doesn't actually produce like more impact. So that's I've had to start thinking a lot more strategically as to like the things that I'm actually doing and where I'm actually allocating my time and energy, and making sure that those are high leverage, high impact activities instead of just cranking out more stuff just for the sake of being busy. Because there's the difference between being busy and productive. It's like you could be busy all day and get nothing done,
mhm,
or you could be productive, only do a couple like key initiatives throughout the day, and that's going to move the ball much further than if I just spent a whole day busy, just like doing a ton of tasks just for the sake of it. So that's what I've had to learn. But kind of since this, like I said, it's only been a couple weeks. Since the sale is finalized, and there's still a lot going on. We are kind of in the midst of spring rush across all of Augusta, at
mhm,
least for the next couple months, because we have some people that are just starting their spring rush.
mhm,
So it is kind of the season that I'm in right now is just kind of purely reactive. So I'm just kind of dealing with things that are being thrown at me, and just reacting to them. And it's the same thing with the owners in their business. Like during the spring, like despite your best efforts, you end up being pretty reactive. But then once the chaos kind of slows down, things kind of level out, then you can kind of shift more to the proactive, and you can spend more of your time and energy on, like highest impact things instead of just
mhm,
dealing with what's thrown at you. So that's when the growth actually happens. That's when the moves actually happen. But there were a couple things that I was able to roll out. So probably one being the biggest is the office hours that we started doing. So basically every Monday, myself, anyone who wishes to join. I know sometimes Taylor and Brian from Command Center join. Lindsay will join from Copilot on occasion, and basically it's just like a live, like 1 to 2 hour support on a weekly basis. Just anything business related. We'll cover any topic, and it's basically just like people can pop in. They can just listen. They can learn from other people's situations that they're going through, or they could pop in with a specific question and thing that they want covered. Um, and yeah, and sometimes we'll do like one-on-one scenarios where it's like I'm coaching someone one-on-one and other people are just kind of listening. And then sometimes it's just like more of a free-for-all, and it's just kind of open Q&A. So that's been good. And obviously throughout the week I'm developing a list of topics and things that I want to cover, and kind of lining those up with certain individuals and people, and also just trying to make sure that we're touching on the thing that's the most timely at the moment, like price increases right now. It's like a lot of people, it's
mhm,
like if you're growing fast, you're cash strapped, you run out of cash and you need to make something happen tomorrow. It's like, hey, price increase. That's always like the
mhm,
the escape route, so to speak. So it's been really valuable. It's also a way for me to scale my time more, from doing the one-on-one calls. Um, and yeah, that's kind of the goal behind that. And also just that way people too, if I'm booked out 4 weeks on the schedule, they don't have to wait 4 weeks to have a conversation about their business, because 4 weeks in business is a long time, especially
yeah,
mid-spring. So this
mhm,
way they can jump on Monday, and if they're going through something, we can kind of dissect that, and then they can have some sort of action plan moving forward instead of having to wait weeks on end. So
Is this available to all business owners or just those within Augusta Nation?
yeah, just Augusta. Just Augusta. We're teaching the Augusta systems. Yeah, just kind of running the playbook. So I mean, a lot of stuff. I mean, I'm sure a lot of it would translate, but we're all speaking the same language. Like if I was to go and talk to somebody else, like sure, some of it would translate, but a lot of it wouldn't. We kind of have our own vernacular and language that we speak. So yeah, it's strictly just Augusta.
I would say that that is basically unheard of in franchises because you might have a webinar and one topic might be presented, but you're actually opening yourself up to absolutely any question, Copilot, business related, scheduling, so many things. Even I heard somebody ask the other day about balancing things out, like life work balance. So you have no idea what's going to be thrown at you. And I listened to your one from this past Monday. Today's Wednesday, and the questions about price raises and scheduling and how to do it, and owners just feeling like lost and frustrated right in the middle of spring rush, and you're able to go right into Copilot and talk them through the whole thing, schedule a job, the budgeted hours, the pricing, show them what they're doing wrong. And I can't imagine anybody outside of Augusta Nation, because Mike is really gifted in that as well, is just opening up the platform and the forum and letting people ask anything they want and being brave to just be ready for whatever comes. And if you don't know the answer, to say you don't know. I find you very gifted in that area. And how much do you think it's mattered that you actually owned a business to be able to do what you do?
That's the only reason I can. That's the only reason I can say anything really, because I have experience in basically everything I talk about.
Mhm.
Yeah, and there are a few things I don't have experience with, and it hurts because obviously you want to provide the solution. It's like, yeah, but I haven't really done that. It's like level billing, for example. It's like I can tell people where the tutorial is, but I haven't really done it that much myself. Same with
Yeah.
snow. So it's really hard when those questions pop up and you can't really support. But yeah, having experience is crucial because also it builds credibility. Not that I had the largest, most successful business by any means, but it was really well ran, very well within the systems, throughout the 4 years that I ran it. And I've kind of had experience in every category. It's like I've managed a
Mhm.
manager, still do that, even though my business wasn't technically at that size.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I've basically gone through everything. It's like I think by stage like 3 of growth inside of Augusta, you kind of have gone through everything, and then
Mhm.
from there on, it's just more reps of the same. But I think the stages 1 and 2, it's like everything just keeps coming at you. Oh, thought my video just disappeared.
You're
Yeah,
back.
everything just keeps coming at you, and it's new. And I think by stage 3, it's like, okay, I've dealt with everything at least once, except for the manager thing. Um, so yeah, having been an owner is absolutely crucial because I can actually speak on these things, and I can actually speak with some level of conviction, especially
Mhm.
if I'm really certain that taking a certain course of action is going to lead to harm for the owner. Um, I'm not afraid of pushing and being a lot more convincing because I see what's going to happen, and I want to prevent them from going down that route or from making the
Mhm.
mistake. And that's all you could ever ask for is like if you had to go through all the same mistakes and stuff and you had to learn the hard way, all you could ask for is be able to take those losses and those failures and be able to give them to somebody else up front and help them avoid that.
Mhm.
That's what's the most gratifying is if you can help someone avoid a really messy situation.
Mhm.
um, yeah, that's huge. So yeah, again, not that I have all the answers, and I'm not the gospel or anything like that. But I do have some level of experience with everything, and I've always been really good at sticking to the systems. And one thing I know for sure is that the systems work, and deviating from them um, usually just causes complexity and confusion. And I always bring everything back to the systems. It's worked really well for me, and that's what I want to help other people achieve.
Yeah, so there's a lot of positions that you hold at Augusta. And when you started working for us on the leadership team about a year ago, you were learning to coach under Lee, and then you took over the whole program. If you can even think of them all, what have the step by step increments been of the roles and how they've changed over time?
Wow. Yeah, it's a lot. My least favorite question that, like, people outside of work or extended family or anything, they're like, "Hey, what do you do?" And it's like, well, I can't even begin to tell you. There's so much. Yeah, so like with the coaching, I mean, the first like big hurdle with that too was like I'm a very self-critical person. I try to be more like that than prideful. And it's like
Mhm.
I do have some level of confidence in what I do. Obviously, you have to have enough of that to be able to wake up every day and and do what you do.
Right.
Um, but I try not to give myself too much credit for anything. So the tough part with the coaching initially was believing that I had anything to offer. And maybe it's just personality trait. Even this interview, you're like, "Hey, do you want to do an interview?" And inside, I'm like, "No."
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
then you're like, hey, it'll help other people to kind of hear perspective. I'm like, okay. Um, so that was really tough at first, and then also developing that skill. That's the other thing too. Is like it's what I do now is a completely different skill set than what I used to do before. Like a
Yes.
lot of it translates, a lot of like the business stuff, obviously like actual tactical, like running the business, all that translates perfect. But actually like learning the skill of coaching and being able to deliver messages in a certain way, be able to figure out what the actual essence of the problem is, and then do that in a concise way, and then deliver a concise solution that the owner agrees with, and also simplify it for them and not make
Mhm.
it overly complex. So the actual like approach of coaching, it's just like estimating jobs. It's like if you look at a job and it's like, how long is this going to take? You kind of have to
Mhm.
develop that muscle over time. It's been like that with me for coaching. So like at first, it's like, I'm feeling underqualified, and
Yep.
that's certainly the case. When I started coaching, it's like I don't know how to coach people. I don't know how to
Mhm.
deliver the message effectively. I'm just working on how I've just learned to be from the past.
Mhm.
Uh, so it's been a big hurdle is actually like learning, adjusting my approach, and just reps helps with that a lot. And then also realizing that like some people receive messages differently, and you try to adjust your approach while still staying within the system and
Mhm.
being able to, produce the predictable result, so to speak. Um, and with the other parts of my role, so it's like with the regional manager side of things. Um, I've been getting much better now, especially that's one area that I'm improving a lot after selling the business is like being able to build more structure and systems around our meetings.
Mhm.
We have weekly metrics that we go over now. We usually leave the meeting with like one action plan, and we say like, hey, for the next, however many days, this is our only focus. We like really simplify it, and then we check in on that. It's basically like the coaching calls that I do, but it's just on a week,
Mhm.
and it's tracked a lot more. So that's gotten much better too. But yeah, even initially when I started, another self doubt thing was
Mhm.
I ran my business at 350,000 for a few years, and it was profitable. Cool. But now I'm going to be the regional manager over the Bellingham location, which does $1 million.
Yes.
And there was some level of feeling underqualified for that because I'm like, well, I haven't run $1 million business.
Mhm.
But it was all the things that I was familiar with just scaled up.
Right.
Um, and it also helps too when you have good managers in place that are able to kind of take it and run with it and kind of listen to what you have to say. So yeah, learning how to coach and manage the managers
Mhm.
has been another hurdle. Um, and then yeah, overall, just realizing what the essence of my role is. So like my title is the owner success manager. Look it up online. You're not going to find anything.
Yep.
Doesn't really exist. Also, because we call our franchisees owners because they own
Yes.
it. We don't call them
Yes.
franchisees. Um, so owner success manager, if you look at most franchises, they're charging you a royalty percentage. They're doing everything they can to just extract as much value from you as possible. as a
Mhm.
unit on a piece of paper. And I know obviously we operate contrary to that with our fixed fee model. And also that philosophy extends to where, we invest in the success of our locations because we understand that helps the brand, that creates goodwill in the community, and it reduces the amount of locations that we lose, and it just helps everybody. But I feel like most franchises, when they're only concerned about the bottom line,
Mhm.
they're not willing to invest in a person who is like the owner success manager. So in franchising, this is really uncommon. Yes, they have like support people and whatnot, but probably basic level of support. I don't know. I honestly shouldn't speak too much on that because I haven't even spoken to another franchise or person that does what I do. But my role is really common in software.
Mhm.
They actually refer to it as a CSM instead of an OSM, so it's just customer success manager. And yeah, basically the whole responsibility is to make sure the customers are successful. That's it.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, well, that's not very actionable. It's like, yeah, it sounds great, but what do you actually do with that?
Right.
Um, so me figuring that out too has been another hurdle. I think it actually took me 6 months to figure out what I was even doing.
Wow.
like, like what am I actually responsible for? Because it's just so vague. It's like, again, like I think I spent the first 6 months just like getting my feet under me, just being busy, not being really productive, not really building any kind of solid system, just kind of like honestly just like running around aimlessly. And
Yeah.
then it's probably at that 6 month mark I realized, okay, these are the core things that I should actually be focused on. Like these are the metrics I should be measuring. And then all of my daily activities, and like anytime I'm thinking about rolling out a new initiative or anything, it all revolves around that central focus, which is
Mhm.
making sure the owners are successful. And then obviously I break that up into more tangible things where it's like, just however many locations we lose, just making sure that number doesn't continue to climb. And then also I track the status of each owner and kind of make sure that, the people that are in the most vulnerable spot, they're getting the most support. So yeah, there's more to it there, but yeah, that's been a big hurdle, is actually figuring out like what my job's even supposed to be, because you just deal with everything, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, so at Augusta, we do everything fast. We're growing very fast, and our roles change rather quickly. So when I think of all that you've done in 1 year, you were the coach, and then you created a coaching program to bring other coaches in to help. You're the regional manager over 2 companies, correct?
mhm.
In Washington State here, which actually gives you a guinea pig to be able to trial things. And with Corey there at the GM, you are basically running a very large business with him and strategizing every week. And so, aside from that, you're on the Facebook group, and you've just made yourself available for them to be able to ask questions and get the support that they need. And another thing that you've done that's really been positive is a survey that you put out for the franchisees. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, the survey, we do it every quarter, and we have an internal metric based on the ranking that people fill out at the beginning, and we track that. And part of my responsibility is, like I said, there's a lot more tangible to it. It's like part of my responsibility is making sure that number continues to climb, right? Obviously, we don't want to see it decline, so we got a problem. And that ranking, it's like 1 to 10. It's like overall satisfaction with the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, combined with that, it's like we're taking down, or we have questions. It's like, what would you improve? Okay, we get a huge list. We ask a couple of unique questions every time, but mainly it's like, the main question is, what would we have to do to improve your rating? And then
Mm-hmm.
that's where our owners can go in and they can basically share all of the pain points, all the main things that they're dealing with, and the things that they want to see us to change.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been really positive too, because a lot of times it's like, it's really easy for either you or I to do something and think this is going to do good, this is going to have the
Right.
impact. But then when you look at the survey feedback, it's like, if that's not even something that anyone's even talking about, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
we think we're doing good, but we're not.
Exactly.
Because the things that
Exactly.
actually matter to the owners, we're not doing.
Yeah.
So I think that's been pivotal too. And I can kind of guide, more of like the main initiatives that I do and the ones that you do at Command Center and everything from that survey, it's like, hey, this
Mhm.
5 times in the survey, we should probably do something about this,
Yeah.
right? Versus us doubling down on the thing that isn't even on the survey
Mhm.
that no one's even asking about. So yeah, that's been huge, and I think that's been huge just for the whole organization. Is one, just giving a voice to the owners, and also us proving to them every quarter, because that's how frequently we do it, proving to them every quarter that we do take action. So
Yes.
basically, right before the survey is I'll summarize all the things that we took action on the last one. And then
Mhm.
basically it shows the owner, it's like, hey, taking 2 to 5 minutes to do the survey is actually worth your time, because this isn't just some like blanket like corporate thing that like, oh, it just
Yes.
makes us look good. We actually take action on it. And so yeah, I think that's been immensely helpful. Again, we do it every single quarter. And there's the concept of, like, imagine if you just became 1% better every single day. In
Mhm.
a year, you'd be, you know 360 times better than you were a year prior. It's a
Yes.
similar concept with the quarterly surveys. It's like, imagine if we just became a bit better. I mean, how are you going to measure
Mhm.
that? Imagine if we just became a bit better every quarter. Then we did that
Right.
quarter after quarter after quarter, and then we just built all these wins on top of each other. In a year, the organization is going to look it's going to look entirely different.
Right.
And our year over year data, because we just did our first, like, we started these surveys Q2 of last year, and then we
Mhm.
just did our first Q2 survey of this year, and the numbers show that we're making progress. So that's really encouraging to me, especially when there's not a lot of clear metrics to actually measure and to
Right.
know if it's successful. Yeah, and I suppose that's a tough thing is you go out, you put all this effort and energy into things, and the metrics and the results are either super delayed, or you never really get like that, like, gratification of like, oh, okay, what I did was actually good. Or
Mhm.
so but the surveys are really helpful for that. It's like it's a number. If I see it growing, we're doing good.
Yeah, and what's our percentage?
Our percentage, yeah. So this is it's NPS, stands for Net Promoter Score. A lot of companies use this to kind of gauge how happy their users, aka for us, our owners, are with the product. And so ours is a 72. And for the
Incredible.
last year, all of our surveys were at 59.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, it would not increase. It was kind of stagnant. And even just between last year and this survey, it's like we've just rolled out so many more things that are actually helpful and beneficial to the owners, things based on the feedback. Like, another one of the big ones we did is like 6-week group calls after training. So it's
Mhm.
basically like 6 more weeks of follow up with myself and Brian from Command Center. And that's been extremely helpful too, because some of the feedback that we got from the surveys was people felt lost after training. Like,
Mhm.
okay, do something about that.
Right.
Um, so that's been helpful too. But yeah, it's 72 right now, and again, huge jump from 59. And I know that doesn't seem like a lot to people if you're using like the traditional grading system of, like A, B, C, D. You would think that's like a low C, but
Mhm.
that's not really how it works with Net Promoter Score. Honestly, if you're above 50, you're crushing it. Um,
Yes.
and most large companies, I mean, you could look up online, any large brand that you could think of, most people have some sort of an NPS, and look at it, and 72 is crushing it. So yeah, our goal is to keep it there and obviously have it increase, but never go backwards.
Yeah, I think a huge part of our success is the ability to humble ourselves and take feedback. So, the way a lot of this came about is you have a lot of people complaining, complaining. It appears to be complaining. And the position you were in is directly uh, connected to the franchisees with all of your coaching and just interaction. They have your cell phone number, they can WhatsApp. So, it's basically 24/7. They can spew, they can say things, and that's what it seems like when you're getting a massive amount of complaints. And I know that you would say a couple things, and I would get very defensive. And I would, get mad or whatever and think, like, we're doing the best we can. We're building this thing. And like you just said a little bit ago, the way we think. the
Mhm.
way we think they need it. And it's the same with like teachers and parents and leaders of all kinds. We put together some kind of protocol or something that we think is best, but we never have the guts to ask the people that we're taking care of, teaching, leading, how they would like to be led, or what they need to see in us to be a better leader, teacher, parent, or whatever. And it was very difficult. And I remember the day that you and I think it was a hot summer day, and we sat in my car and we had it out. And it was not an easy conversation at all, but it was very important that you were able to express to me how the owners felt and that I wasn't listening and I wasn't taking action the way I needed to. And just the way you and I even communicated and everything, like it's improved dramatically from that time. And we became so open to what the owners were asking. And in our meetings after that, we've always been okay. We have leadership meetings with you, Lee, and myself, and we all bring forward needs of the owners, what they're expressing, what they're going through, and we're able to say, well, what can I do to make this change? What can I do at Command Center? And then you will say, oh, I could probably help with this. I'll contact them and say this. And it's been phenomenal. And I think that that's been the huge success of our survey, and to get the high net promoter score that we have is because we ask for this feedback and we ask for how can Command Center better support you. And some of the things that come back to us are not easy to take, but we have to put our heads together and sometimes break apart certain systems to put new ones in place. And it's very humbling. And have you found that the same, that as we've humbled ourselves and become better, like I would use this in a positive term, better servants to them, that it's been made us more successful?
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And the results speak for themselves, through the NPS score. Yeah, and I think, to even anytime like, emotions run high, it's all coming from a place of caring. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
from our perspective, and what a lot of people don't see is like, the time, effort, energy that we do put into things. And then, we think like, man, I'm already doing so much.
Yeah.
Like, how
Yeah.
could they be asking for more? How could they be unhappy? And then
Yes.
it's very natural to get defensive. Like, I'm already doing so much.
Yeah.
Um, but even too during in those moments, and that's what I appreciate about you and the rest of the team is like during those moments, like it's not personal.
Right.
It's not a personal like fight or whatever you want to call it
Mm-hmm.
between two people. It's we both care a lot about what we're doing,
Mm-hmm.
and we can rally around that. And that's how
Mm-hmm.
we can like basically like accept what's being said, and then we can move forward and say like, okay, we both want the same thing. We
Mm-hmm.
want everyone to be successful, because when everyone else is successful, that means the whole organization's successful. That means we're being successful at our positions and everyone's happy. um, and so yeah, I that was a big moment. And yeah, I feel like everything's kind of improved dramatically from there. And the role that I try to play too, and just for any owner that's speaking, is like I try to play the liaison, so to speak, kind of a neutral figure between the
Mm-hmm.
two. And I feel like that's important too,
Yeah.
especially you don't ever want the dynamic where it's like owners and corporate. It's like owners
Yes.
versus corporate. Nobody
Right.
wants that. That's not helpful. So it is nice to kind of have like someone on the inside, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we're all on the team of the owners, but someone that can kind of advocate from an owner's perspective. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that's probably one of the other advantages that I had coming into this, is that I've been an owner for 4 years and I understand exactly what they're thinking. Like
Yeah.
if they're making a request, I know exactly why. I'm like, yeah, that would be irritating to deal with as an
Mm-hmm.
owner. So that's helpful too, to kind of be a liaison between the two. And it's also like to bring balance to it. We can't just bend over backwards and accommodate every request.
Right.
One of my sayings that I always come back to is simple scales, fancy fails. So
Mm-hmm.
anytime people want us to customize things, they want us to change the system to cater specifically to their needs. It's like, yeah, like we would love to do that, but we just can't. It's the same
Mhm.
way that like, their customer only wanted to be serviced on Sundays
Yeah.
by this specific employee, and it had
Yeah.
to be Sundays at like midday or nothing. As much as you would love to serve that client, I'm sure they'd pay you great for it. You just can't.
Right.
Um, so that's a tough balance too. Is yeah, just being super open and receptive to all the feedback, but then also being able to explain why we can't execute on certain things, and that it is ultimately for the better of the whole organization. If we can keep things simple and streamlined, and it means that we can just execute better on the things that are simple and streamlined that we can change, that'll affect the majority of people instead of like kind of customizing it. So there's a
Mhm.
balance too. So it's like I have to play the balance between siding with corporate, so to speak, and explaining why we can't make a certain change, but then
Mhm.
also play the side of the owner to where it's like I want to push for certain changes, because I see the value that it'll provide, and then I work with you to see is like, does that work with your guys' workflow, and then we go back and forth and we figure out a
Mhm.
happy medium that usually results in the solution.
Mhm. There's one more thing I want to cover, and it's something that every owner deals with. And you mentioned it last week. So, you, Lee, and I, as the leadership team, we've been meeting every other week. And last week, you said, I think that we should probably meet more, not because we need to meet more for our jobs, but because we need each other's support. Because in our different roles, Lee handles sales, I'm at Command Center, you're helping the owners. We are all separate in what we're doing, and then we come together. Um, just every other week is our communication, except that we have a WhatsApp chat together to deal with emergencies or questions we have for one another. But that is the way owners feel, I think. There's a saying that it's lonely at the top. So if you're the one in charge or the ones in charge and you're the leader, it can get really lonely there because you don't have anyone to talk to. You don't have anybody to share the burden of what you're going through. Can you just speak to the owners, maybe a little bit of encouragement that they experience what we have and the importance of having each other to support one another?
Yeah, almost every single time whenever we do the survey too, just to kind of just for us to kind of know where people see value within Augusta, because to us we see it everywhere, but like
Hmm.
what's actually meaningful to the owners. So one of our questions, it's something along the lines of, what's the most valuable part of being inside of Augusta Nation?
Hmm.
Overwhelmingly, like well over 50% of the time, people say it's the community, it's the other people. Um,
Hmm.
and it's so funny to us because it's like, oh, so it's not anything that we're actually doing or working on. It's just having the other people.
Yes.
But overwhelmingly, that's the case, and
Hmm.
it's human. And I even last week I felt silly saying that because part of your job as a leader, it's like you're just supposed to be able to take stuff, deal with it, get it
Hmm.
done. Like there's no one's shoulder to go cry on. You can't like you gotta take care of it. So
Yep.
I felt silly saying that too. But then I also realized, um, there's a tax that you pay, mentally if
Hmm.
you're not connected, if your morale is low, and we don't talk about that too often. We normally
Right.
talk about things in terms of like dollars and cents, like things that you can actually measure, but
Hmm.
very rarely do we talk about like loneliness or solitude
Hmm.
or feeling like you're on an island. And so I feel like that's super important for all the owners too. Again, that's part of why we started doing office hours, is like everyone
Hmm.
can just jump in there live and just like talk to other people and realize like, oh, I'm not crazy, or I'm not the only one dealing with this. Like it's
Yes.
so nice to hear about other people going through situations. And as bad as it sounds, sometimes it's helpful when you're really suffering to hear someone who's suffering more.
It's
And then you're
totally
like,
true.
and then it gives you perspective, because
Yeah.
when you're in the weeds, you don't have perspective. You're in it, and you think like, oh, life's miserable. I'm a victim. You forget why you even started. But sometimes that perspective too is really helpful. So yeah, but like for any of the owners that are going through it too, it's like just leverage the community as much as possible.
Mhm.
Um, you know, I think most people do. It's like they're active in the Facebook group, the WhatsApp groups, even just connecting with one owner, Like Derek and I over the last few years, it's like, super close. We'd always chat and message. We're going through the same things at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
It's helpful even if you just have that one person, because it's like, oh, okay, they get it. And it's tough too, because like, especially being the type of people that we are, we don't want to go home and complain about our day or like say all the stuff. Not that it's complaining, but like vent. Most of the time we just deal with it. Or if you're
Right.
talking to someone at home, a spouse or something, they don't get it, because what we're doing is not normal. This is not like a normal 9 to 5 job where there's, just like, basic stuff happening. It's like with the business, it's like the stakes are much higher, psychological
Mm-hmm.
stress is higher. There's much more on the line. And it is helpful to be able to have that community of people that are going through it all at the same time in unison. And it's also helpful too during your lowest moments. Like, other people are going through this too, and they continue to keep going. So can I.
Yes.
And I feel like that alone is powerful, because if you're on an island, you're not part of the franchise, you're really struggling in business, you're looking around, everyone's got their nice jobs, they have stability, life's just easy for them, or seemingly. You're going to be looking for a way out. And if that's
Right.
all that's around you, you're like, I want to be like these people. Versus if you have a community around you that's going through the same thing and you're really struggling, if you see someone that's struggling way worse than you and they're doubling down and they're pushing through it, you're much more likely to be like, okay, if they can do it, so can I. And
Right.
like, I have to do this. If they're doing this, I have to keep going. So that's helpful too.
Yeah. So just to wrap up, what are the things that you're able to listen to now or not able to listen to now? What do you mostly feed on for just to encourage and better yourself as a leader, and just personally, like mentally, physically? How do you inspire yourself? And it's always different when you're working in the field, when you can listen to something for 30, 40, 50 hours a week. But I believe it's made you what you are. So now, with the bandwidth that you have and the probably less time, what do you listen to?
Yeah, well, you're right. Like it's funny too, because like when I'm in the field and I'm spending all that time and I'm doing that, you kind of take it for granted. It's like you're listening to like books and podcasts and all that stuff. And this is to any of the frontline guys that are listening to this, or anyone that hasn't started the business yet. You'll never get that time back to do that. To be able to listen to something for 8 hours straight a day, it just doesn't exist anymore, unless obviously
Right.
you set time aside on the weekend. But then you have other things like relationships. It's like
Mhm.
me and my wife. It's like I need to spend time with her on the weekends to keep that relationship strong. Because then when that relationship's strong, I'm in a good headspace. And then when I'm in a good headspace, that translates into me doing better at my job, which helps everybody.
Right.
So the rate of listening and learning has certainly slowed down. Occasionally I listen to business related content, or if someone suggests like a good book, I'll listen to it. But to be completely honest, I haven't listened to anything in a while. I listen to podcasts more so for entertainment and just kind of disconnect a little bit on the weekend. But I think the season of life I'm in right now is much more just trying to learn by experience. And I suppose there's always value to listening to more books and whatnot. But my main thing has been just kind of learning from self-analyzing, going through the motions, just trying to get better, because I feel like ultimately I have the knowledge, or I have like, it's in here how to be like great at my job right now. Putting it into practice is the tough part.
Right.
So what I'm getting at is more information, I don't think is what's going to help me in this stage. I think it's just better. And that's been hard to grapple with too. It's like, because you want to always be on the path and like listening to books and stuff. But I really do feel like just better execution on my part is what's needed right now. And then as soon as I identify that there's a skill gap or a knowledge gap, then I'll address it. Then I need to expand my thinking. Then I need to introduce myself to more books, resources, things like that. So yeah, not currently listening to a whole lot. And just for anyone else out there too that's in a similar position, it's okay. It's like life happens in seasons. Like there's a season for learning, and then there's the season for doing. So yeah,
I really believe that too.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
We spent all these years like taking in. And I feel like now is the season where we're giving back out from all that we've taken in and all the changes that we've made in ourselves.
Mhm. I couldn't agree more. And there will be another season that comes around where it's like, okay,
Mhm.
I have a huge deficit from where I am and where I need to be. I need to expand my mind. I need
Yes.
to develop more thoughts, and learn more things. And then that's
Mhm.
going to be a season of learning. But right now, it's just get better at what you're doing. Just execute better on the things you
Mhm.
already need to do. And then when that time comes, obviously we'll switch gears back into learning mode.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I really appreciate your time today. I know we're both right in the middle of executing.
yep.
And so that's a weird word, by the way, executing, but that's what we're doing all the time. Hopefully not doing that to people, but
Yeah.
executing on getting some things done. So
Yeah.
I appreciate your time today, and I'll let you get back at it. And over and out. And later, alligator.
Thanks, Liz. See ya.